Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Fear the Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 1, and this is the season premiere. And now this is pretty much getting exciting because now this is pretty much going to be, the last of the Fear the Walking Dead review series for a while, since this is the most recent season of Fear the Walking Dead. And I'm really excited to be watching it now because um, of how great and fantastic season um, 3 was. So let's talk about this episode. This episode's very excited because now Morgan Jones is going to be pretty much transitioned over from The Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead, which I like. I think everybody, had been talked about for a while that they wanted to see, um, somebody from The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead jump over to the other show, and I like that it's finally happened. And do I think it was the right character that did it? I would say so. With the way that they wrote his story, and because he's kind of a character that can make the jump because it's not somebody um like Rick, Carol, um, or anybody else on The Walking Dead that would hurt that show. Um because Morgan Jones is kind of, I've always kind of thought he's had like the weirdest um role on The Walking Dead because he was in like the first episode and then you didn't see him again until um season 3, like episode 13 or something like that, and then you didn't see him again um until season 5 when he started making his way towards Alexandria, and then and then you finally saw him full time on the show at the end of season 5 until season 8. So I definitely think it doesn't hurt removing him from the Walking Dead because of the way that his character is, and the way that his character's been portrayed anyways, and because his character won't affect the show as much as other characters would um, leaving The Walking Dead. But let's talk about this season. I'm excited about it. I will say, just of note, there's been some change in the productions. Um, they have a new showrunner. Because David Erickson ended up leaving, being replaced as showrunner um, by Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg, which um, I hope that ends up being a good thing because I'm guessing that Dave Erickson, he did obviously a fantastic job being the showrunner last time because of how great the last season was, but we'll have to wait and see how that works itself out. But let's start talking about um, the actual episode itself. The episode itself came out on April 15th, 2018. I believe, if I'm not, I want to make sure I'm not mistaken. I just want to check something real quick. I should have checked this. I believe this aired a week after um, the season finale of The Walking Dead. I just want to make sure, see if I'm right on that. I'm just going through this real quick. Just give me a second. Um, it's taking me a little while to look it up because it's not just popping right up. Because this aired April 15th, and it says right here. Actually, no. This aired the same exact day as the Walking Dead season finale. Because it says here the Walking Dead season finale was April 15th, and um, their season premiere was April 15th. So this actually had the same day as the season finale of The Walking Dead, which I'd imagine it aired afterwards because of what this ties into this episode. But we meet this guy that the episode opens up. We meet this guy that um, thinks he hears something um, in the woods because he's outside by his car, and um, he hasn't really talked to anybody, um, you know, um, in like over a year, and he hasn't really talked that much in over a year. And we find out because he hasn't talked to anybody when he thinks he overhears somebody, um, he um, starts talking to him about where he was where the zombie apocalypse broke out and stuff like that, and what he does with his life, and he reveals that he ended up losing his girlfriend. I forget um, her name. Let me see if I can um, find it. Um, Laura. Um, and he reveals that they lost each other, and he mentions how they fell in love, and when he goes to turn around and realizes that nobody's there, he hears um, a walker. I'm just gonna call it a walker, just because it's kind of a crossover episode of The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead pop up, and he ends up shooting it, and we find out that the person that he heard from was Morgan. Morgan was just about to kill it, and um, then the guy asks him, "So, what's your story?" And that tied in because that's the name of this episode. What's your story? And then it cuts to the theme song and stuff. And Fear the Walking Dead ended up getting a new logo and kind of like a new little intro. How it kind of showed um, somebody standing by the fire, kind of setting the tone for it. And I really liked that. I liked the new logo, and I liked that they gave the show a new look because the show had been around for a few years now, and it really established its logo. And I really liked that they changed up the logo. I thought it was awesome. Um, and then um, it cuts. It kind of cuts back in history, kind of showing um, Morgan's journey to get into this guy, and Morgan's oh, I forget that he's at the dump where the scavengers used to stay in The Walking Dead. I don't remember what they call it now because it's been a little while since I've seen the show. And he's kind of isolated himself away from the militia, which is the kingdom, um, the kingdom, Alexandria, and not Oceanside now, I guess, but the hilltop. It's been so long since I've watched The Walking Dead, and I haven't slept all night, so I'm working with that. And people are trying to come over and convince Morgan to come back to the community. First, it's Jesus, and Jesus talks about how we've taken steps to kind of try to fix the way that you were, and you need to be around people because people are a really good thing. But Jesus is unable to convince them, and I did think. Then Carol tries to convince him, and Carol talks about how Morgan helped her when she was at her worst, and she wants to help him, but she doesn't want to tell him whether or not he should come back to the kingdom. And but she is unable to convince him, and then Rick tries to convince Morgan, and obviously Rick had the longest speech because he's really the main character of The Walking Dead, and Rick tells Morgan that um, everybody is alive right now because of Morgan. Because he took because Morgan um took the time reached out his hand towards Rick and helped him out when the zombie apocalypse originally started. Um or at least back in season 1 because the zombie apocalypse had already been going on for a while. Um and Rick says Morgan says he's not that kind of guy anymore, and Rick says that he is, and people are alive because you stuck your hand out to me, which actually is true because um, if Morgan didn't save Rick, there would be no Walking Dead show. There'd be no Fear the Walking Dead right now either. But that's besides the point. Neither here nor there. And Rick tells Morgan that um, he shouldn't do what he did last time and wait too long to want to be around people. He should realize that people are inescapable. You can't run from them, and everybody is connected. Um, so Rick tries to convince Morgan to come back for him, but he's unable to do so as well. And what I kind of liked about this is I don't know how long ago this had taken place, because it seems like this took place a little, shortly after the militia's war with the Saviors. But obviously, it made sense to kind of start out showing this episode with Morgan, considering the fact that this aired pretty much right after not the mid season finale, but the season finale of The Walking Dead. So I actually thought that made complete sense. And Rick pats him on the shoulder, which wishes Morgan good luck, and then Morgan leaves the dumpster, the dump, and he considers going back. He hears Rick's message stay in his head, but eventually he runs away. And the rest of the episode, well, not the rest, but the first half of the episode is Morgan's journey to get in there. And what I kind of liked about this is Morgan is trying to help people out. He tries to give this guy water and a towel that's dying in a car, but the guy doesn't want his help, so Morgan refuses it. And it kind of leaves Morgan a little bit conflicted, trying to decide whether or not he should help people. And then Morgan hot wires a car and he drives, and he ends up reaching the Texas border, and then the episode pretty much catches up to the current, where he ends up meeting up with that guy we saw in the beginning of the episode, and he introduces himself as John Dory and offers him to spend the night with him. But Morgan ends up leaving in the middle of the night, and he finds a place where he can settle in. But then he ends up getting attacked by Leland and his group, and Leland's about to ready to kill Morgan, but then John, um, shoots. John ends up shooting Leland, and he shoots the gun out of his hand. And we find out the gun that John uses is like an antique. It's a gun that also his girlfriend Laura had, and there's two. He thinks that he has the upper hand, but there's two. But then he gets hold of gunpoint with all his men because everybody reveals themselves, and they end up getting hold at gunpoint. But then this woman comes up and ends up saving um, Morgan and John, and they end up driving away. But they do owe them something, and at first they think that Althea's gonna kill him, but we find out that that's not the case. Um, we find out that she's not a sports journalist, but it's just a regular old journalist, and wants to ask them questions about their experiences about the zombie apocalypse. And um, you know, um, John pretty much says his experience when he last saw his girlfriend and stuff like that. And then she tries to ask Morgan questions, but Morgan doesn't want to answer any of these questions because he doesn't want to be around people right now. And he goes to leave, but then he gets but then when Althea gets held gunpoint by Leland, and Leland forces her to give him the keys, but then she ends up throwing the keys into the woods, and everybody gets held at gunpoint, Morgan and even John, and um then Morgan ends up and John end up taking their chances and fighting Leland and his crew, and Morgan ends up killing a few of them. Well, not killing a few of them, by hitting them in the head with the Keno stick, because he doesn't kill them because one side's for the walkers and the other side's for the people, the not sharp side. And then um, Morgan runs up on the roof where one of the guys was, and the guy shoots him in the leg, and this ends up hurting Morgan's leg. So he tries to jump across the buildings, and Morgan ends up throwing him off the building, and a sack of walkers are about to attack him, but Morgan pulls him up, and the guy still attacks him, and they break through the roof, and um, Morgan, and the guy ends up getting eaten by the walkers. Morgan sets off a grenade, and it blows up the walkers, and he hides in a bathtub so that way he won't explode, and then um, Leland ends up dying somehow. I don't remember how, and then Althea ends up Morgan ends up saving this causes Morgan to finally open up to Althea and pretty much mentions everything that he's gone through. Really more the last season than anything else. Why? But then when Althea tries to ask him why he left the community, he doesn't answer, saying that I've already paid my debt because I saved your ass. And um, then John tries to ask him again, and Morgan says because when I lose people, I lose myself, because that's how Morgan kind of feels when he's around people. So then um, Morgan continues walking forward, and he finds one of the walkers that he thinks is one of the guy in the beginning of the movie who he tried to help. Not sorry, we've been reviewing too many Halloween movies. The beginning of the episode that he thinks he tried to help, but John stops him, and John says that people out can be a good thing, and we're not gonna let you be out here alone. So Morgan wants to see if this is the guy, and we find out it is the guy. So he executes the walker and he buries him. And Morgan agrees to travel with Althea and John until his leg heals up, and then we see this woman on the road that they drive up to, and um, when Althea um, Althea wants to kill them, but Morgan and what's her name? Morgan and John go out, reveal they don't kill. So Althea goes to see who it is. We find out it's Alicia, which we figured somehow Morgan was going to end up getting wrapped up with the main cast of Fear the Walking Dead. So we found out that this was Alicia, and she's revealing that there was bad people out there. We find out this was actually a trap. She holds Althea a knife to Althea's throat or neck, whatever you want to call it, and Morgan and John try to step in and do something, but Luciana, Victor, and Nick all pop out and hold them at gunpoint. We didn't see Madison. Maybe Madison's gonna come on later on, but um, I thought it was interesting, and you could kind of see because who knows how long's gone by since this season and the last season, because it didn't really go through really the specifics of it, because we know that now the shows are caught up with each other because The Walking Dead, because this episode takes place pretty much after season 8 of The Walking Dead. So there's been some sort of time skip um, with this series. We just don't. I don't know how long the time skip's been, but you could see that the main cast have gone through some type of change throughout the series, and since the last season, because um, Nick, um, Nick, Victor, and Luciana and Alicia wouldn't have done this last season, and you could just kind of see, maybe not as much Nick, but you could see Alicia's acting a little different and Luciana's acting a little bit different. So I like this. And somehow Luciana was reunited. We had the return of her on this show. Her and Nick reunited somehow. We don't really know how, but I liked the ending, and I kind of liked the episode. And I really liked this episode because it unfortunately reminded me of what The Walking Dead used to be, the first two seasons, where it just had that tone, um, the first seasons, and I can't really explain it. Like if you watch the first season of Walking Dead and then watch this, you would understand what I'm talking about. Because it just kind of felt like that tone of the Walking Dead used to once have was kind of brought back with Fear the Walking Dead. And I really enjoyed that. Like I said, it made sense to have this be the first episode because this got Morgan to the group, and it was fresh in everybody's minds, considering the fact that you know, um, considering the fact that season 8 had literally just aired just before this, so I thought it made sense. I don't think this is a joint episode. Um, yeah, this time around, you know, the first two episodes don't come out the same day because I know Fear the Walking Dead sometimes would do that. Will they air the same episode? They'll air two episodes the same day, but this time I guess because we had Walking Dead and then Fear the Walking Dead, it aired different. It aired a different day. It aired on they just aired the same day, but that's pretty much it. Um, as for my letter grade, I do gotta say this episode was easily better than anything I saw in season 8 of The Walking Dead, the current season. Well, at least the last season now, because technically the new season comes out tomorrow. But I easily thought this was not tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow actually. But I easily thought this was better than anything that The Walking Dead's put out as of late. It really is sad that this has been the better alternative, but whatever. I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed watching um, Morgan's story all kind of play out throughout this season, and now it's going to be interesting to see what Morgan's going to be like going to a new the other cast, and that was pretty much the story of the whole episode. And I just kind of think it really did a good job getting more of getting Morgan towards the group. So I really like this. I like this episode. I thought it was great. I'm gonna give it a B plus just because I thought it really did a good job of setting the tone for the season. Obviously, no storylines were really made because we haven't really seen anything from the main cast yet, but I'm assuming that's coming. But I really enjoyed this episode. Got to give it a B plus. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead. Um, pretty Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time I upload a video you guys get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers YouTube channel. That's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.